Hi there. So today I am making turkey broth. I am using a turkey that I roasted a couple of days ago. I've already made the broth, so now I'm going to be canning it. But I'll show you guys how I do it all. It's very, very easy. But I thought I'd take you along so you can see how it's done. It is so simple to make your own broth. It's almost kind of crazy that we make it seem like it's so hard, but it's really, really not. I actually just started making my own broth starting in, I think it was November, honestly, at Thanksgiving. I knew it was there. I knew how to do it, but I just never did it because I thought it was such a long and tedious process. It's not. All you do is you just put your, like in this case, I'm using a turkey. So I'm just going to put my turkey carcass. I put it in a crock pot, filled it with water, used a little bit of some vegetable scraps, added in some herbs just for flavor, and then you let it simmer on low for 24 hours. It is that easy. And then once you're done, you get to can it. So I'll walk you through how I pressure can. My pressure canner makes this very, very easy, to the point that I should have never been scared to pressure can. Nor is it hard once it starts going. You don't have to watch it as much. And I'll talk about that when I get to all of it. So stick around if you would like to watch some more about making your own broth. So first thing I always do is I get my jars clean. These were already clean before I put them into storage. So at this point, I'm just rinsing them out and getting them ready. But I already know that they're clean. So this is just an extra step. But I always store them. I put them in my garage, but I store them with a lid on them. So I know nothing's going to get in there. But like I said, just like precaution, if you will. The broth is already made. So what I did is I just put a carcass from a turkey that we roasted into a crock pot. You just squish it down. You can leave, if there's meat still on the bones, you can leave it. The skin is great to leave in there as well. It adds extra nutrients. And then you can add in more vegetable scraps if you have any. I usually keep a bag of vegetable scraps in my freezer and I just add to it when I'm cooking. And then you can also add herbs in if you would like for extra flavor, but it's not necessary. This particular one, I didn't have a whole lot of vegetable scraps in there just because I didn't have a ton of room this time. It was a little bit bigger bird, it felt like, than the first time I did this year. So I just did the bones, and then I had like an onion in there when I was roasting it. So I added that onion back in. And then I just had some herbs for when I was roasting it. So I just grabbed a handful of those and put those in. And that's about it. That's all I added. And then what you do is you put water into your crock pot. You just fill it up to the top or about when all the bones are covered. And if it's too big, usually what I'll do is I'll actually squish the bones down as it cooks because they do get softer. So that just makes for more room while I am roasting it. So I've got my jars done. They are clean. So I'm just going to let them dry for a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the water into my canner and start heating up my turkey broth. So the first thing I'm going to do after I've got my jars all rinsed out is I'm going to fill up my pressure canner. This one is a Presto pressure canner. It is great for glass tops. Yes, you can pressure can on a glass top stove top. Some people will try to tell you you can't. You can. You just have to buy the right one. So a Presto canner, you can do that. But on the inside, there are some lines that indicate how far up you need to put water in. And I've got mine. I can feel it usually better than I can see it because we have hard water, so it's left some residue in the canner itself. But I can just feel for where that line is, which is right there. And I've got it. So I'm going to put this on to the stove. All right, I went and grabbed my jars from the counter. Now, since there's not a lot of water in this pressure canner, I'm just going to put these jars right down into it and they should stay. I'm going to get them a little bit warmed up here. I'm just going to turn it on medium heat. That is to help the jars get acclimated to the temperature because I'm going to be putting my broth into a pot and I'm going to be warming it up as well. So I don't want to shock the jars and run the risk of them cracking. You can leave the lid on or off. It's up to you. I don't lock it if I'm going to put it on at this point, just because I'm not actually pressure canning. It's just more to get them heated up. So those are going to heat up. And while it does that, I'm going to put the broth into my pot. Now, the first time I made broth, this actually was weird to me because when you see broth from the store, it does not do that. It doesn't jiggle when it's in the container, right? And I was like, is this right? Is this wrong? This is perfect. This means that you have an awesome amount of collagen in your broth. So if you see your broth jiggling, that is excellent. It means it is full of nutrients. So I'm just going to throw this into this pot here. Hopefully it doesn't go everywhere. Oh, that was close. And then I'm just going to take a spoon and get the rest of this out of here. But you can tell this would be not fun to can if I left it like this. So that's another reason why I'm heating it up, is to get it back to a liquid form. So I know that I am getting as much bang for my buck, if you will, because I'm able to put as much broth as possible into my jars. So we're just going to get this into here. And then I'm just going to set this probably on medium high heat. I don't really want it to boil. I just want it to get out of this solid state and back into a liquid state. So we're just going to get this all kind of, I'm going to break it up here just a little bit. And then turn this here. Like I said, medium, high heat. It's up to you. And there we go. Once this is back down to its liquid form, these jars should be warm enough where when I transfer this hot liquid into these hot jars, they should not crack. I haven't had it happen to me yet, so let's hope today's not the day. Okay, so it's only been a minute, 2 minutes, and this is already starting to liquefy, which is perfect. So I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's see. There we go. So yeah, you can tell that is getting liquidy very quickly, which is great. And then I'm just checking here. Oh, that's just fat. Okay. I want to make sure I didn't have any like meat pieces left in here. While that broth heats up, I am also going to get my countertop ready. I just put a cloth down on the countertop because when I put the hot jars over here, I do not want them to crack on the cooler surface. So if you have wood countertops, like a butcher block, you should probably be okay. I have one on the other side of my kitchen that I will just put the hot jars on when I'm all done canning. I'll just lay them over there without a cloth and they do perfectly fine. But you want some sort of barrier if you have like a linoleum type countertop. I'm not sure what this is. Or if you have stone or marble, things like that, because it gets really, really cold compared to what the jars are going to be. If you have even the wooden cutting boards, you can put those down as a barrier and they should be just fine. So my broth is heating up here. It's only been a couple of minutes and this is already starting to liquefy. So I'm going to let that go a little bit longer and the jars are heating up as well. Okay, while this stuff keeps heating up, I thought I would show you the book that I am using. I use a ton of recipes out of this book for pressure canning, for water bathing, but I use it for my tomatoes, pizza sauce, all that good stuff. But it has a ton of information in it. And it also has a really great section in here on the basics of canning. I am somebody that doesn't take risk with canning, and this is a great job of showing you different methods and safety, all the things that you would need to know for canning. This is the very first book that I started with, and I absolutely love it. So I can link this down below for you if you are interested in it, but it's the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. It is an awesome book if you are just learning how to can. The other thing that I wanted to show you and wanted to talk about is my pressure canner. I used to be terrified of pressure canning. I just didn't like that there was like a bunch of what ifs, like what if the top blows off? What if I blow up my house? And I had another pressure canner that I used a lot more because it had the gauge on it, but it took forever because you had to watch the dial go up to a certain pressure and then you had to make sure that it stayed at that pressure. And if your pressure went lower or higher, you had to start the process all over again. And I'm sorry, but if you're a busy mom like me, you don't have time for that. So I actually had this pressure canner. I got it at a garage sale. And what it is it has this little weight. And you can set this weight for whatever your recipe needs. Most of my stuff is usually around 10 pounds. So I leave it at the 10-pound pressure mark. And all I have to do is let this build up with steam. I'll watch the steam come out of the top. And I'll show you guys all this in this video. But I let the steam come out of the top for so long. It's like 5-10 minutes, I think. I'll have to relook at it. But once the steam starts coming up and you know that it's got it built up, all you have to do is stick this on top of here, and that's it. You just have to wait for it to start rattling. It'll just sit here and it will literally just do this. And when you hear that, you know that it's time to start your timer for your processing time, and that's it. You just let it go. It'll just sit there and rattle and do its thing, and it is glorious. You cannot lose pressure. You won't gain pressure. Oh my gosh, it makes it so much easier, especially if you are busy. Game changer. I'm so excited for this year because I can actually can more of our vegetables. We do have a freeze dryer, which I prefer with some vegetables over others. As far as like canning or freezing, I actually like to freeze dry them. But this will double that because I can put some into the freeze jar, but I can also pressure can, and it's not going to be a hard process. So I am so excited for this year in the garden to be able to use this to help preserve more of our food. All right, broth is looking good. At this point, what I'm looking for is making sure that there aren't any more fat chunks in here that haven't gone down to that liquid state again. You're not going to get all the fat out when you go to skim it off the top. So when you're reheating it, I just like to make sure that I've got that all out. And then my jars are at a good point. They're not going to be super, super hot, but they're warm enough that I feel comfortable putting the broth liquid in because the broth itself is not extremely hot, but it's hot enough that I've lost all of that gelatin texture, and all of the fat that was left behind has now melted into there. So now I'm going to be transferring this into these. I know you guys won't be able to see me that great, but that is not the important part. So I want you to be able to see the jars as they get filled up here. So I'm going to get them out of my canner. You'll want something like this to be able to get your jars out of your hot pot. It's just, I call it a jar grabber, but it's rubber on the end and you don't want to touch a hot jar. So this makes it a lot easier to fish them out. I'm just going to grab my jars here, put them on my counter. Remember, you don't want to put hot jars onto a cold counter. You want to have some sort of barrier there. So I'm using the dishcloth, or you can use a wooden cutting board. That is totally up to you. You just don't want to put hot jars on a cold counter or you will break your jars. And then you will want something like this. It is a funnel for canning. This is for wide mouth, so this is a little bit bigger. And what I love about this one is it has a measuring tool on the neck, if you will. So it has the fourth headspace, half inch, 3/4, and 1 inch. So today I'm going to be using the 1 inch. So I just put that in there, and then I will ladle out my hot broth to where I see that 1 inch headspace. Okay, so there's something here I wanted to show you. So one, if you don't have one of these with the measuring headspace on the neck of it, that's perfectly fine. A lot of starting kits will come with this tool here, which has a measuring, it has the measurements right here on this. I know you can't see them very well, but it does tell you them there, and I will use this to double check. So I need 1 inch of headspace, which is right here. So I'm going to put the top of my jar at this point here, and I'm just going to check that it just touches it. So this one's good. This one's good. Now this one, I already knew it when I saw it, but this one, if you guys can see this, it's not touching the liquid. You can even tell here the two differences. I don't know if you can see that very well. You can tell this one is a little bit lower. So I don't want to pressure can this one because there's too much air in the top, which can cause bacteria, all that fun stuff. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to split this in half, and I'm going to let this cool, and then I'm going to put it in my freezer. I just need to leave enough room. This is plenty of space. Usually these jars will tell you like how far to go when you're freezing something, but I'm just going to let these go. These guys are definitely going to go in, and they're going to process for 25 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. Okay, let's get these guys ready. So just want to use this tool here and just double check for air bubbles. I highly doubt there's going to be any since this is liquid. Whereas if you're doing something like sauce or applesauce, you'd want to make sure that you have all your air bubbles out, but this is fine. And then I'm going to take a paper towel and just wipe off the rim, making sure I've left nothing behind, so that way I don't have anything that will hinder my seal. I've got my lids here. You don't have to heat them up, but this particular brand, they tell you to warm up the lids. I just put them on some warm water, and it just makes the seal better. I agree. I think it works great. So I just put those on top. Make sure that they're centered. And then I take my rings and finger tight. You don't want it too tight or too loose, but finger tight. And those are ready to go in the canner. Okay, so I've got my jars into my canner. So now what I'm going to do is put my lid on here. There are arrows to indicate. I'm going to flip this over this way. But there are arrows both on the lid and on the canner where I will line them up so I know that I'm getting this on properly. There we go. And then you just slide it. It also has arrows to tell you, so this way is to open it and this way is to close it. So I'm just going to slide those over until the handles meet. And then we're going to turn this on high, let it boil. And then I need to see steam coming out of here for 10 minutes. And then once the steam has been going out for 10 minutes, I just put my weight on top like that, and it's good to go. Okay, so this is getting ready for me to put the timer on for when I can put this on. So the first thing I want to look for is this has popped up, which means that there's pressure building. Then the thing that I want to look for, and what I will try to show you here the best that I can, is there is steam coming out of the vent. So I don't know how well you guys can see that, and I don't want to burn myself, but do you see it on the front of my hand there kind of coming out? That is what you're looking for. Let's see if I can show you a little bit better here. I was trying to get a background without that vent steam from the front coming out, but I can see it coming out. So I'm going to go ahead and set a timer for 10 minutes. And then once that 10 minutes is up, I'm going to put my weight on. So now with a glove, I'm going to put my weight on. What I'm going to wait for is this to start rattling. Once this starts rattling, that means that I have enough pressure built up. I have the 10 pounds of pressure I need, and I can start my processing time. So what I'm looking for now is for this vent to go down. When that vent goes down, that tells me that there is no more pressure inside of this. So it tells me that it's safe to take the weight off. And then I'll even let some steam come out if there's still a little bit of steam in there. And then I will put on gloves and unlock the lid and then slowly take the lid off and make sure that I vent all of the steam that way instead of towards me, or I could end up burnt. All right, there we go. Homemade turkey broth. So I will let that sit on the counter for 12 to 24 hours. Usually I go 24 hours before I check the seals. And then at that point, I will store it all away. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you next time. Bye.